Why does it seem like the Cincinnati Reds cannot manage their roster when it comes to injury? Also, is it time to make wholesale changes in the outfield before it's too late? We've got all that and more on today's bonus edition of Locked On Reds. Let's go.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds for a bonus edition with myself and Stephen Offenbaker. We are going to be covering what went down this weekend here on Locked On Reds. Thanks again for making us your first and second listen of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and we're free and available on all platforms. On this bonus edition, we are going to talk about the weird management that seems to be going about this roster. And really, it's not just this season. It's been happening for a couple of years at least, but it's really come to a head over the last few days. And we're going to talk about the black hole that has been the outfield and what needs to be done before it's too late. But Steve, this weekend, for a lot of reasons, obviously the losses suck. To go 0-6 on the week sucks, but overall, seeing how the Reds handled Nick Senzel, seeing how the Reds handled Jonathan India, it's very sobering to see. I mean, do we got a plan here?
I don't think we have a plan. And actually, I at this point, I feel like the front office has grossly mismanaged what they're doing with the roster when it comes to injuries. Let's go back to that Nick Senzel thing for just a minute. And now look, this is not insider baseball. This is not me having talked to somebody inside the team on this particular issue. This is me looking at how it's gone down and trying to understand what it is that the Reds are doing. This is what I know. Tommy Pham and Nick Senzel had a collision in the outfield. For the next two games, we did not see Nick Senzel. While all along being told he's not hurt, he's not injured. But for two games, we did not see him. Game 3 rolls around, and the question remains, is Nick Senzel hurt? Why aren't we seeing him? Oh, he doesn't feel well. He's not available today. He's sick. Okay, day 2. We're now 4 days into this. Day 2 of sick. Oh, he's available to pinch hit, but he still doesn't feel well. Finally, we reach day 5, and then the Reds place him on the COVID list. Now, he did not test positive for COVID, but symptoms alone make you eligible to go on the COVID list. So all those days in, they finally put him on the injured list, the COVID list, and bring in, for inexplicable reasons, a pitcher to replace him. That pitcher comes in, pitches one game. That's Duarte. Ends up going out with inflamed ERA and elbow. And then they finally bring in our guy, Alejo Lopez. I'm speculating again, but I feel like Nick Senzel was hurt in that collision with Tommy Pham. Now, maybe it wasn't significant. Maybe it wasn't a big deal, but he was hurt and he couldn't play. And I think the Reds just didn't want to say that because of what the narrative has been with Nick Senzel for the last several years. And then when he got sick, it gave them the ability to make some kind of move to be able to do something that wasn't quite going to fire up that narrative.
It's a fair assumption. I'll say this. When it came to how they managed the situation, they at least put him on the COVID IL so he doesn't have to stay there for a minimum amount of days. They can bring him off as soon as he is ready, as soon as he is not exhibiting symptoms. And I did see there was a headline out there, and I forget what the website was that posted it, but there was a headline out there that said that the Reds placed Nick Senzel on the IL. That's very misleading because as soon as you see that sort of a headline, you immediately think, oh my gosh, this dude will never be healthy. He will never get to the point that we want him to. It's time to cut bait and move on. He's on the COVID IL. This is a little bit different. I think that he will be back soon, but to say that he is hurt is not a far-fetched idea because he got headbutted in the chest by Tommy Pham on that play there on opening day, or at least the home opening day. So with that to be said, that he's definitely not hurt, that seems a little short-sighted to say, but I do wonder a little bit as to why they brought up a pitcher at least at first. Obviously, then they bring up Alejo Lopez. They bring him from the taxi squad, put him on the active squad whenever Duarte goes down. Just overall, though, the way that they seem to be playing about this, and this flows into our conversation about Jonathan India, it feels like they just are playing everything by ear, that there is no plan, there is no strategy, and they react. They react to everything. They're not ready. With Jonathan India, it feels like they keep hoping that everything's okay. They keep hoping that he's going to be in the everyday lineup and that he's going to be starting tomorrow. And then when he isn't starting, they're like, well, gosh, golly gee, we're going to have him in the lineup the following day, I'm sure. And now we've come to like 4 days that he's been out of the lineup. He needs to be on the IL. I don't know why he wasn't. They can backdate it 3 days if they put him on the IL right now. That needs to happen.
And, the fact of the matter is this cannot be the first hamstring injury that any of these people have dealt with. Hamstrings are tricky. Hamstrings, I alluded to this when we talked about this in one of our previous episodes. It takes away your ability to hit correctly. You can't run and you can't field. So, and it has a huge opportunity to make it worse. So the fact that they're playing this wait and see game with him, well, you know what? Fine. If you want to say we're waiting, we want to see, we want to hope, and then he ends up going on the IL. Well, what they've done is they've, by no good reason, decided that they're going to play shorthanded for no good reason against one of the best lineups ever assembled in baseball. Decided, we're all right. We don't need everybody. And then, you leave David Bell with no choice but to construct a roster that leaves him 2 guys on the bench. And those 2 guys were a backup catcher, Garcia, and Colin Moran. Man without position. I don't even know what you do with Colin Moran. That's your options. So, you see people criticizing David Bell and saying bad things about David Bell. What the heck do you want him to do? I mean,
right.
What changes? The only differences that you can make in any of those lineups that got ran out there the last 2 games of the Dodger series was sub in Garcia for Tyler Stevenson or sub in Colin Moran for wherever. That's not better.
No. And to be honest with you, this continues to push back to one point. This points to Nick Krall. And this is something that, okay, yeah, we keep saying, boy, everything's going wrong. How about that? Seems like if it can go wrong, it's going wrong. All right, what's our plan? It seems like they continue to hope for the best, plan for the best, and when everything comes to the worst, they're just like, ooh, okay, I think I'll figure it out. Yeah, okay, we'll do this. They're juggling like fireballs or something, and I think that Nick Krall is showing that he is completely overmatched at this point. I understand to this point when we look at some of the roster moves that have been made, it's like this is a mandate from the top. He was told to cut payroll. Okay, give him a pass there. But he has not built a roster that is going to be good. He has not built a roster that can withstand the injuries that they are currently going through. And make no mistake about it, you still have Jose Barrero on the IL. You still have Donovan Solano on the IL. You've got key guys like that, and now Nick Senzel is going to be out probably for a few more games at least. Jonathan India is going to go on the IL as well, and all of our backups are just a bunch of guys that you're like, oh my gosh. It feels like there are some dudes at AAA that deserve a shot, which we'll talk about at least when we come to the outfield here in a few minutes, but overall, there's just this feeling like just get through this next year and there's going to be some really cool prospects being brought up. But why wasn't the roster ready for this year?
I think the answer to that question is that Nick Krall is seemingly out of his depth when it comes to managing injuries and constructing a major league roster. And we're going to get into a lot more of that coming up in the next segment. The Reds outfield is clearly a mess right now. There's really just not a lot of positive things to say about it. But wholesale changes need to be made before it's too late. Major changes, major upgrades. And if you want to make a major change and a major upgrade to your diet, head over to built.com right now and get yourself a Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's not chalky. It's not waxy. It doesn't taste like you took a big drink from a chemical spill. It is covered in 100% real chocolate. It is so good. It is going to make you want to eat it. Bonuses that it helps you maintain your health and fitness goals. It helps you to be healthy. It is jam-packed with some amazing statistics. This is a baseball podcast. We love the statistics. It's 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, only 4 net carbs for you keto folks, and jam-packed chocked full 17 grams of protein. They have some amazing flavors like cherries barcia, which is my personal favorite. I keep that stashed at my locker all the time. They've got salted caramel. They've got coconut brownie chunk. They've got all kinds of great stuff. They've got mini products. They've got the puffs that Jeff is addicted to. They've got protein infused broth to get you through the last of those few cold days before baseball weather sets in the Queen City here in the coming days. You can head over to built.com right now and use the promo code LOCKED15 to save 15% on your next order of Built Bar. Get yourself stocked up. Get yourself set up for success with your health and diet goals at built.com. Promo code LOCKED15.
Also, check out betonline.net. When you're talking about the absolute best source for sports lines, props, odds, and sports information, then there can be found anywhere else. It's betonline.net. As Major League Baseball season goes along and we've got the NBA playoffs rolling too, make sure you check out BetOnline with all of their great offers that they have for you. Plus, the NHL playoffs are right around the corner. You've got great UFC cards that are coming up here in the next month and boxing, and you've got your favorite Vegas casino games. It's all at betonline.net. Check it out today on your desktop or on your mobile device, as they've got a great user-friendly interface. That's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, Steve, when it comes to this team and when it comes to what we've been talking about a little bit with Nick Krall being overmatched, being out of his depth, when it comes to managing this roster, he's got something else he needs to do. He's got to fix the outfield. And he's got to be, I don't even know if it's thinking outside the box at this point. He just has to be creative with it before it gets too late. Because we're talking about a group of players that have vastly underachieved, and I'm looking squarely at the dude who's been manning left field quite a bit this year, in Aristides Aquino.
Well, the thing with Aquino is, first he was the new great hope, but then he wasn't the new great hope. And then he all of a sudden was the new great hope. And the only thing that you can count on him to do consistently is strike out. 63% strikeout rate right now. I think that, listen, this is the real errors. 63%.
63. That's ridiculous.
So he's showing us exactly who he is. There's nothing left to see. There's nothing left to figure out. He cannot hit the ball if you throw it low and away. He can't do it. He cannot do it. Swing and a miss. He's going to strike out. He's got to go. I hate to say it. It's time to make a change. I don't know who they've got that they can bring up that will instantly change things, but I can tell you this for sure. That nobody's going to do worse. It can't get worse.
It's hard to say that is like what we're shooting for here, but the benchmark is so low when you're talking about how the Reds are going to fill this outfield this season, because they didn't go out and get anybody else. They didn't really hand the keys over to anybody interesting. I mean, Tommy Pham, whatever. He's been a very uninspiring player thus far. I mean, maybe we give him a little bit more time to get going, and you can kind of maybe chalk it up to early months and he's going to catch up to pitching and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I'd rather see what TJ Friedl and Lorenzo Cedrola have for this team. I would like to see them in the major leagues and getting some playing time, because Tommy Pham is just being handed everyday playing time and batting third. And I think between you and me, I think he's got one more hit than the two of us put together.
Ooh, that's an ugly stat. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the way he started the season, he tied the worst start in Reds history with a little known obscure former Red by the last name of Cabrera from last season. 0 for 22 to open his Cincinnati Reds career before he finally got that knock against the Dodgers. So you're right. Between me, you, and him, the three of us combined have one major league hit this season. So I think that it is time to make a move. Now you talk about Friedl. Friedl's already on the 40-man roster. Obviously he doesn't help you against left-handed pitching, but that's a problem for another day. I think
we just need help against pitching, period.
That's exactly right. So I think that at this point, he comes up, he plays a great outfield. When you got a righty on the mound, he's considered, I guess, maybe can be dangerous. He can run into one. So, that's an upgrade in my mind as to what's happening right now. And then to make another roster spot, because you're going to have to clear room on the 40 man, you're going to have to make a spot. I think they're going to have to get creative. So what would you do in order to free up another spot for an outfielder?
I think, honestly, it sounds like Mike Minor is going to be on the IL a little bit longer. And to be honest with you, at this point, they're not playing for a playoff spot. Everybody knows that. So why on earth rush him back? Put him on the 60-day IL. I mean, at this point, he's had shoulder issues since the beginning of spring training, before spring training, and then he has soreness after his first rehab start. To me, that tells me that he needs more time. So just put him on the 60-day IL, open up a roster spot, and call him up. Like, I would like to see Lorenzo Cedrola and what he has to offer. And I'm not going to sit here and quote to you spring training statistics, but again, I ask you, what can be worse than what the Reds have thrown out there right now? And there's a good shot that he might be better.
So if they go that route, if you transfer Minor to the 60-day DL, and that gets you a spot for Cedrola, and you want to bring up Friedl, I'm assuming that we're going to designate Aristides Aquino for assignment. Is that the play there?
Yeah, I think it's time. Look, if he catches on somewhere else and figures things out, great. I wouldn't bet on it. I would not think that the odds are very good at that. And look, I would love to be wrong about this, but I've been saying that, and I am finally to the point where I can be completely objective about Aristides Aquino. If the ball moves, or if it's low and away, he can't lay off of it, and he can't hit it. So he's always going to be a liability in the lineup. He's home run like every 3 or 4 days, maybe even no, 3 or 4, not 3 or 4, 3 or 4 weeks. That's the one. So I don't know what you're looking for with him in the everyday lineup. I think the only reason he is there is because there's been a lack of a plan.
I have seen some great fan produced content, I guess, on Twitter. And I know how much you love Twitter, Jeff, but there's been some great stuff out there. And it seems that this Reds team continues to be tied back to the movie Major League and things that have gone on in that movie. And there was a great compilation of, the guy in the outfield that just is ripping the team all the time. Someone put that together, stitched it together as a video and said, this is Reds Twitter over the last 4 days, and just playing that on a loop. Right. And then I think your description of Aquino sounds a whole lot like Serrano. Maybe we need to sacrifice some KFC in the clubhouse, or,
Something.
Jabu statue needs to get set up in someone's locker. I'm not sure what needs to happen, but clearly something needs to happen.
Yeah, I just think at this point it's a change, because what they've been waiting for, it's not going to happen. His everyday career is not going to be August of 2019. It's going to be a lot more like the September of 2019, where, he still hit a few home runs, but he struck out quite a bit. And he just does not have an eye up there. This isn't a situation where I say he's a young guy who's barely had enough time to figure things out, and he's going to figure things out. He's had plenty of time, and he hasn't come close to figuring things out.
So would you be good right now if they let's just say that Nick Krall is listening right now, and we know that he probably is. Would you be good right now if they made these changes and just, regardless of pitching matchup, started an outfield of Friedl, Senzel as soon as he comes back from the COVID list, and I'm drawing a blank on the third guy. Sorry. Cedrola. Yeah. Would you be good with that outfield for at least the next few weeks until we start getting guys like Barrero and other players back from injury?
Yeah, because I feel like they need to do something. They have very little time here. We're not talking about a situation that, yes, this team is going to be competing for a playoff spot, so they need to go and make that move now. This is a team that just needs to compete for themselves. This is a team that, sure, by the time they figure out baseball in 2022, they're going to be pretty fun to watch, and they're going to be a pretty decent team, because we've all said that there is some talent here, but until that happens, they are just digging themselves a hole. I mean, it's 6 games under 500 right now, but who knows? We could be 12, 14, 20 games under 500 before they figure things out if they continue to roll out it's the Einstein's theory of insanity, Steve. Like, you cannot just keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. It's time to change things up.
I agree. There's so many pieces on this team right now that we can look at and say, oh my gosh, it's bad. You can look at third base and be like, oh my God, this is terrible. You can look at the bench and be like, oh my God, this is terrible. You can look at the outfield and say again, oh my God, this is terrible. But help is on the way. We've got to survive. They've had a rough stretch of schedule. It's not an excuse, but it's a fact. They've had a rough stretch of schedule and they've had a lot of injuries. Both of those things are going to be in the rearview mirror very soon. Once these guys start coming back and we get into playing the Pittsburgh Pirates of the world, this is going to be a fun team to watch. And there's going to be a lot that we can learn, even if they're not competing for a playoff spot in 2022. There's going to be a lot of things that we can take away as we watch these youngsters develop. There's going to be a lot of fun simply watching Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo take the mound on their turn. I mean, listen, I know we lost the game, but that start from Hunter Green out in Los Angeles was so much fun to watch. And the first 4 innings of that start, when the Dodgers just could not figure out what to do with Hunter Green at all, that was a thing of beauty. Watching him pitch was a thing of beauty.
It was awesome. And there is so much about this team that is going to be fun to watch as the season goes along. Nick Lodolo is up tonight. Hopefully we'll be talking about some good stuff from him tomorrow. But there's so much great content coming for you as well. I think it's a good spot to kind of end today's bonus episode as we look ahead to tomorrow. The Reds will have begun their series in San Diego. We'll kind of break that down a little bit. We'll also continue our conversation with Mo Egger. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, have a great part 1 up currently on the YouTube page and on your favorite podcasting feed. You'll also get to hear the conclusion of that conversation tomorrow as we talk all about the strange direction. And hopefully we're actually looking toward 2024. But as of 2022, who knows what's going on this year? We're talking all about that with Mo Egger as well. Thanks again for making Locked On Reds your first and second listen of the day. Now go make Locked On MLB your second listen. Again, Paul Francis Sullivan, call him Sully. He's really good about baseball and past and present and things like that. He talks about it every single day, including Mondays with Miller. That's a lot of fun. Miller Thomas from Locked On Diamondbacks. That is a great crossover there. Check him out today. That's Locked On MLB, just like Locked On Reds. Free and available on all platforms. Steve, this team is confusing. The Reds are reeling and hopefully going to figure things out here soon. What can people expect from us?
They can expect us to stick it out. And while the Reds are trying to figure it out, we will be here, Locked On Reds, every single day. We'll see you next time.